My finger. I got a cramp in my finger. Playing video games is just too hard for me. Oh, if only there was something I could do to where I wouldn't have to play a video game and instead could just, I don't know, talk about it. Jeez, if only there was some kind of topic that I could talk about. I have the perfect idea. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is a game that came out in the US in 2007 for the Nintendo DS, meaning that I played it around the time I was 12 years old. Yes, that is me when I was 12 years old, I apologize. A lot of people may actually have a vague memory of the name, but that's because this game comes as a successor to the GameCube title Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, doesn't have a subheading. However, for the sake of time, we won't be talking about that one. Instead, I specifically want to focus on the first 2 hours of this game. Just the first 2 hours, not even getting into the meat of the game, because this opening, it just might be one of the best in Final Fantasy history, at least in my opinion. The game opens up in darkness. Heavy rain pelts the ground. We see a mysterious figure in the shadows, approaching a small hamlet. Keep him in mind. We'll be seeing him later. As the day begins, we are introduced to our two main characters of the game, Yuri and Chelinka. To this day, Chelinka's name is the only reason I remember this game 10 years later. I don't know why, but the way it sounds has just stuck with me. Time will go by and then just randomly, it'll be in my head again. So Yuri and Chelinka are the children of this DILF named Latov. They are also accompanied by two secondary characters who join the party later. The first being Meath and the other being Al, who has the greatest fucking voice line ever.
Performing labor?
After this brief introductory sequence, you're given control of Yuri and you head off to do your first dungeon. Side note, something I really like about this tutorial dungeon is that the Moogles, which are these little guys, literally just made it for them so that they could have a place to like play and train. But one of them gets left behind and is super nervous, and I just love them. The main combat mechanics are pretty simple to follow. You have the basic attack combo, the air jump, but you also have magic. The magic can be a little tricky to use, and you have to press and hold to cast it and then release it on the target, leaving you pretty open to attack. There are 6 different magics you can use: fire, ice, lightning, cure, revive, and clear. There's also unique skills each character has, but I never used Yuri's for some reason, so here, have Al doing it. The main gameplay loop in these dungeons is basically fighting monsters and solving admittedly generic puzzles. It's a lot like Zelda in the way that it plays and feels, but the controls are so tight and responsive that while simple, it's really satisfying just to do it. So you go through this dungeon, fighting monsters, grabbing loot, solving puzzles, and then you get to the boss room. The first boss is an evil scorpion spider thing, and admittedly it's probably not the most recognizable first boss, but I did actually die to him the first time I fought him.
Game!
We could have been killed, or worse, expelled.
Soon after, you're met by a strange vision. This ghost girl pops up and gives you just a glimpse, a tickle, a little sampling of something more going on here. But there's no time for that because it's time for wholesome daily life and world building. Steelskin, fat. Chelinka, clumsy. Crystallites, the souls of the dead made manifest in the real world. This brings up the conversation of Illyria, the mother of the children and a once powerful oracle. Doing a bit of research, an interesting thing to note is that these lights are referred to as Ignis
Fatuus.
Ignis Fatuus, an actual phenomenon that occurs in real life. These lights appear in bogs and swamps when the chemicals of decaying matter oxidize in the air. That is where we get the myth of the will-o-wisp. After a few more wholesome shenanigans, you head off into the big city, which, as a Final Fantasy prerequisite, has a huge crystal in its center. As Latov goes off to run some errands, you get to run around and meet the village folk. You quickly learn that the castle is no longer taking visitors, and that this shop clerk is a total freak. As the bell tolls, you spot your father heading off into a quarantined section of the town. Upon following him, Yuri is struck with a sudden bout of nausea from the ringing of the bells before the next section of the game begins. This area is much harder than the beginning zone. The enemies guard, use magic, and gang up on you in pretty sizable bunches. The level design is admittedly a little all over the place in this section, with some areas looking very similar to those you've already visited. The puzzles, while simple, require a bit more thought, and despite being an avid pro gamer, it still took me about an hour to get through this section on my own. Upon completing the zone, you are met with another crystal beast, this time more of a dog bull looking thing. Luckily, I learned from my first confrontation, and the fight went a lot smoother this time. After completing the fight, you find your father, and there's a weird air of mystery as Leitov claims he was at the same location you were when the bells tolled. Once you get home, Yuri is soon approached by Al, who needs you to assist him in running an errand, leading you into the third dungeon. This dungeon is entirely based around the ally system of the game, where you can switch between characters and use their special abilities to get through certain zones. By using Al's materialization ability, you quickly climb the mountain and face off against a truly horrifying creature. Finally, we come to the part that caused me to write this whole 10-minute video. Night falls over the hamlet, and we see our wholesome family sitting inside, weathering a storm, when there's a knock at the door.
Who could that be? Hello? It's cold. Close the door. Yeah. Is someone there? Me? Al?
Letov! Blackguards from the temple!
Yuri, get inside!
But... Papa! Yuri!
Yuri and Chelinka are all that I have.
Papa!
Yuri, Chelinka, I want you to know how blessed I feel to be you.
Papa? Papa?
You died for nothing. Nothing.
You will not!
What is this power? You can't do this. You'll destroy yourselves too.
After the death of Leitov, we watch as Yuri turns into a young adult over the years, caring for Chelinka, who has been left catatonic ever since the incident with Kuch Espel, who, fun fact, is voiced by Liam O'Brien. The prologue ends with this incredibly heart-touching scene.
Chelinka? Yuri? Yuri, is that you?
Yes, it's me, Chelinka.
You've changed.
You too.
Really?
Chelinka, welcome back.
Yuri.
I'm so glad you're back. So glad to see you awake. Chelinka.
It's all right, Yuri.
It may seem a bit hokey, but this opening really stuck with me as a kid, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it even now. I wasn't able to even touch up on a lot of the really funny character dialogue or fully capture these intense scenes, so I highly recommend you play this game for yourself. The game is only about 10 hours long, and if you've enjoyed the first 2 hours as I've shown you here, I'm sure you'll enjoy the rest. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you. A couple things before you guys go. First, I'm so sorry it's been 2 months since I've uploaded. Secondly, if you guys want to support me, I do have a Patreon that you can go to. Link is in the description, as well as you can see it on the screen there. And I've been doing a lot on Twitch, twitch.tv/CaliCores. I couldn't get CaliCore, so I added an S. And as always, I will see you guys further on down the road. Until then, bye guys.